The red warning light blinked on the bridge of the starship Aurora Dawn. Commander Lisa Carter stared at the empty space where Kepler 442b should have been sending signals. For 3 weeks, nothing. Complete silence from the research station that housed 47 people. Still no response from base camp, Jake Morrison said from the pilot seat. His hands moved across the controls, checking the communication systems for the 10th time that hour. All frequencies are clear. It's like they just vanished. Lisa walked to the main screen and touched the surface. The planet grew larger as they approached. Kepler 442b looked peaceful from space. White clouds moved across blue oceans. Green and brown continents spread beneath the atmosphere. It looked like Earth's younger sister. "Something's wrong," Amy Rodriguez said from her station. She was the ship's engineer, and her instruments told her things the others couldn't see. "The planet's surface temperature is dropping fast. My readings show minus 200 degrees in most areas." Dr. Peter Kim looked up from his research files. He had studied this planet for 2 years before the mission started. "That's impossible. Kepler 442b has a stable climate. The average temperature should be around 15 degrees above zero. It's one of the reasons we picked it for the research station." Lisa felt cold fingers touch her spine. In 30 years of space travel, she had learned to trust her instincts. When something felt wrong, it usually was wrong. Very wrong. "Amy, run a deep scan of the research station," she ordered. "I want to know everything. Power levels, life support, structural integrity, everything." The engineer's fingers danced across her console. Minutes passed in silence. The only sounds were the quiet hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of various systems. Finally, Amy looked up with confusion in her eyes. "The station is intact," she said slowly. "Structural damage is 0, but the power readings are strange. Life support shows green across all sections, but there's no thermal activity anywhere in the building." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means the heating systems are working perfectly, but there's no heat," Amy replied. "It's like something is eating the warmth as fast as the systems can make it." Dr. Kim stood up and walked to Amy's station. He studied the readings for several minutes. His face grew pale as he read the numbers. "This is wrong. All wrong. Look at these atmospheric readings. The air inside the station should be breathable and warm. Instead, it shows the same temperature as outside, minus 200 degrees. Lisa made her decision. "Take us into orbit. We're going down to investigate." "Commander," Jake said carefully, "if the station's environmental systems can't keep the cold out, our equipment might not work either. We could end up just like them." "We don't know what happened to them yet," Lisa replied. "Maybe they evacuated. Maybe they found shelter elsewhere on the planet. We won't know until we look." But deep inside, she knew better. 47 people don't just disappear without sending a distress signal. Something had happened fast. Something that gave them no time to call for help. The Aurora Dawn entered the planet's atmosphere 2 hours later. As they descended through the clouds, the ship's external temperature sensors began showing readings that made no sense. The upper atmosphere was normal, but as they got closer to the surface, the temperature dropped like a stone falling into a deep well. "This is not natural," Dr. Kim said, watching his instruments. "Planets don't have temperature variations like this. Something is causing it." Through the main window, they could see the research station. It sat in a valley between 2 low hills, just as the mission files had described. The buildings looked normal from the air. Solar panels reflected sunlight from the roofs. Landing pads were clear and ready for ships. Everything looked exactly as it should except for the ice. Ice covered everything. Not the thin frost that might form on a cold morning, but thick, solid ice that made the buildings look like they were carved from frozen water. Icicles hung from every surface like crystal teeth. The ground around the station was white and smooth, as if someone had poured liquid ice over the entire area. "Jake, take us down to landing pad 3, Lisa ordered. "Everyone suit up, full environmental gear. If the station's heating can't handle this cold, we need to be ready for anything." They landed with a soft bump. Through the ship's hull, they could hear wind howling across the ice. It sounded angry, like some great beast that didn't want them there. Lisa, Jake, Amy, and Dr. Kim stepped out of the ship wearing their best cold weather gear. The suits were designed to keep a person alive in the vacuum of space, so they should handle extreme cold. But within minutes, warning lights began flashing on their suit displays. "My suit's heating system is working overtime," Amy reported through the radio. "It's like the cold is attacking it, trying to get through." They walked toward the main station building. Their boots crunched through ice that was several inches thick. Lisa noticed that their footsteps left strange marks in the ice. Instead of normal boot prints, the ice around their feet glowed with a faint blue light that faded after a few seconds. The station's main door was frozen shut. Jake and Amy had to use plasma cutters to melt through the ice that had formed around the seal. When the door finally opened, cold air rushed out like the breath of some sleeping giant. Inside the station was a tomb. They found the first body in the main corridor. It was Dr. Helen Ross, the mission's chief scientist. She sat against the wall, her arms wrapped around her knees, her eyes closed. Ice crystals covered her hair and clothes. She looked peaceful, as if she had simply decided to take a nap. But she was frozen solid. "My God," Dr. Kim whispered. They moved deeper into the station. In the main laboratory, they found 12 more people, humans and aliens working together, just as they had been in life. The Velnari, the alien species that was supposed to be naturally resistant to cold, were frozen just like the humans. Their blue skin had turned almost white, and their breathing tubes were filled with ice. In the communication room, they found Lieutenant Bob Taylor sitting at his console. His finger was still pointing at the emergency beacon button, but he had frozen before he could push it. Whatever had happened here had been fast, too fast for anyone to call for help. "Look at this," Amy called from across the room. She was studying a wall display that showed the station's power systems. The heating units were running at maximum power when they died. Every single system was working perfectly, but the temperature kept dropping anyway. Lisa felt the cold starting to win against her suit's heating system. Warning beeps were getting more frequent. The power cells that should have lasted for hours were draining in minutes. "We need to get back to the ship," she said. "We can't help these people, and we're going to end up like them if we stay here much longer." But as they turned to leave, Dr. Kim noticed something that made him stop. "Wait," he said, "and look at this." On one of the laboratory tables, there was a data pad that was still working. The screen showed readings from some kind of deep scanning equipment. The last entry was dated 3 weeks ago, just before all communication had stopped. "They found something," Dr. Kim said, reading the data. "Deep underground, some kind of structure. They thought it was natural cave formation, but these readings suggest it's artificial. Built by someone, or something." Lisa grabbed the data pad and studied the information. The readings showed a massive complex buried far beneath the ice, much older than human civilization. Whatever was down there had been sleeping for a very long time, until the research team had woken it up. Back on the Aurora Dawn, Lisa stood on the bridge and looked out at the frozen research station. 47 people were dead, and she was no closer to understanding why. Her own ship's heating systems were struggling against the unnatural cold, and she knew they didn't have much time before they would face the same fate. She activated the emergency beacon and began recording a message to send back to Earth. But even as she spoke, she wondered if anyone would receive it in time to save them. The cold was patient. It had waited for millions of years. It could wait a little longer. Lisa's fingers were getting numb inside her gloves. The heating system in her suit beeped another warning. Red lights flashed on her display, telling her what she already knew. The power cells were dying fast, much faster than they should. "Commander?" Jake called from the pilot seat. His voice sounded tired through the radio. "The ship's main heating system is working at full power, but the temperature inside is still dropping. We've got maybe 2 hours before life support fails completely." Amy worked frantically at her engineering station. Tools scattered across her workbench as she tried to boost the power output. "I've rerouted everything I can," she said. "Lights, non-essential systems, even the food processors. All power is going to heat, but it's not enough. Something is pulling the warmth right out of our systems. Dr. Kim sat at his research station, studying the data they had taken from the frozen research base. His breath came out in small white puffs now. The ship was losing the battle against the cold. "Whatever technology is down there," he said, "it's designed to drain thermal energy. It's like a giant vacuum cleaner, but instead of dirt, it sucks up heat." Lisa looked out the main window at the ice-covered landscape. The research station sat silent and white in the distance. Soon the Aurora Dawn would be just another frozen tomb on this cursed planet. She activated the communication system one more time, sending their final message toward Earth. "This is Commander Lisa Carter of the Aurora Dawn." She spoke into the microphone. "We have found the research team. All personnel are dead, killed by extreme cold of unknown origin. Our ship's systems are failing. We estimate 2 hours before complete system failure. If anyone receives this message, do not approach Kepler 442b. Repeat, do not approach this planet. Something here kills everything that generates heat." She turned off the communicator and sat down heavily in her command chair. In all her years of space travel, she had never felt so helpless. They had weapons that could destroy asteroids, engines that could cross between stars, computers that could solve any problem. But none of it mattered against an enemy that simply stole the warmth from their bodies. "Contact," Jake said suddenly. His voice cut through the quiet despair on the bridge. "I'm reading a single life sign, human, moving across the surface toward our position." Everyone turned to look at Jake's display. A small dot moved across the screen, traveling from the direction of the research station toward their landing site. The dot moved steadily, not fast, but without stopping. "That's impossible," Amy said. "Nothing could survive out there without protection. The surface temperature is minus 200 degrees. Dr. Kim checked his instruments. The reading is definitely human. Male, approximately 30 years old, showing normal vital signs. But he's walking across the ice wearing what looks like standard colony clothing." Lisa stood up and moved to the main window. In the distance, she could see a figure walking toward them through the frozen landscape. He looked like any normal person, wearing a simple work jacket and pants. No environmental suit, no heating gear, no protection at all against the killing cold. "He should be dead," she whispered. The figure reached their landing pad and stopped next to the Aurora Dawn. Through the window, Lisa could see his face clearly. He was young, maybe in his 30s, with dark hair and kind eyes. He looked up at the bridge window and waved as if he was greeting neighbors on a sunny afternoon instead of standing in temperatures that should have killed him instantly. Jake activated the external speakers. "This is the Aurora Dawn. Who are you? How are you surviving out there?" The stranger's voice came through clearly. "Name's Danny Walsh. I got your distress signal. Figured you might need some help with your heating problem." Lisa and her crew looked at each other. Their distress signal had been aimed at Earth, light years away. How had this man received it? And how was he standing on the surface of a frozen planet without any protection? "Danny," Lisa said into the speaker, "you need to get inside immediately. The cold out there will kill you in minutes." Danny smiled and shook his head. "I'm fine out here, Commander, but you folks are in trouble. Your ship's heating systems are fighting a losing battle. Mind if I take a look?" Without waiting for an answer, Danny walked to the side of the ship and placed his hands on the hull. Immediately, warning lights stopped flashing on Amy's engineering display. The ship's internal temperature began to rise. "What the hell?" Amy stared at her instruments. Power consumption just dropped by 60%. The heating systems are running normally again. Through the hull, they could feel warmth spreading through the ship. Not the artificial heat from their machines, but something else. Something that felt natural and alive. "Danny," Lisa called through the speaker, "what are you doing?" "Just giving your systems a little help," Danny replied. His hands were still, pressed against the ship's hull. "This planet has a way of stealing heat from anything technological, but there are ways to work around it if you know what you're doing." Dr. Kim was studying his instruments with amazement. "The temperature drain has stopped completely. Whatever he's doing, it's protecting our entire ship from the thermal siphoning effect." Lisa made a decision. "Danny, we're opening the cargo. Bay door, please come inside so we can talk properly." Appreciate the offer, Danny said, but I'm more useful out here right now. Your ship needs constant contact to stay warm. I can do that better from outside. For the next hour, Danny stood beside the Aurora Dawn with his hands on the hull. The ship remained warm and comfortable while he talked to them through the external speakers. He explained that he was a thermal engineer who had been working in the area when he picked up their distress call. But his story had holes. When Dr. Kim asked about his company or mission, Danny gave vague answers. When Amy asked about his equipment, he said he traveled light. When Jake asked how he had gotten to their location, Danny just said he had been walking. Danny, Lisa finally said, I need you to be honest with us. What are you really doing on this planet? And how are you surviving temperatures that killed 47 trained scientists? There was a long pause before Danny answered. It's complicated, Commander. Let's just say I've been working with extreme cold environments for a while now. I've learned some tricks. Amy was studying her engineering displays with a puzzled expression. Commander, look at this. The areas where Danny is touching the ship are showing thermal readings that don't make sense. It's like he's generating heat directly into the metal. Not warming it from outside, but creating heat inside the hull itself. Dr. Kim pulled up his biological scanners and aimed them at Danny through the hull. The readings that came back made him step away from his station in shock. Lisa, you need to see this. According to my scanners, Danny's body temperature is showing as 120 degrees. That should kill a human being, but his other vital signs are completely normal. Through the speakers, they heard Danny chuckle. Your instruments are probably confused. This planet does strange things to equipment. But Lisa was beginning to understand that Danny wasn't telling them everything. The way he spoke about the planet suggested he knew more than he was sharing. His casual attitude about the deadly cold, his unexplained ability to protect their ship, and most importantly, his presence on a planet that should have been empty, except for the frozen research team. Danny, she said carefully, how long have you been on Kepler 442b? Another pause. This one lasted longer than before. Long enough to know what you're dealing with, Danny finally replied. The cold isn't natural, Commander. Something is causing it, something old and powerful that's been sleeping under the ice for a very long time. Your research team woke it up when they started digging. Lisa felt her heart rate increase. You know what happened to them? I know what's happening to all of us, Danny said, and I know how to stop it, but first we need to get your people to safety. This planet isn't going to stay quiet much longer. What's down there doesn't like visitors. As if summoned by his words, the ground around the Aurora Dawn began to tremble. In the distance, geysers of supercooled air shot up from cracks in the ice. The temperature outside began dropping even further, and Danny pressed his hands more firmly against the ship's hull. Time to go, folks, Danny said. His voice remained calm, but Lisa could hear the urgency underneath. Whatever's down there is waking up, and when it's fully awake, my little tricks won't be enough to keep you safe. Lisa looked at her crew. They were safe for now, warm and alive because of a stranger who seemed impossible. But she knew their luck wouldn't last forever. Danny, she said, if you know how to stop this, then you're coming with us. No arguments. I appreciate that, Commander, Danny replied, but I can't leave. Not yet. There are things I need to finish here first. The ship shuddered as another wave of cold swept across the planet's surface. Through the windows they could see the ice beginning to glow with the same blue light they had seen in their footprints. Something was indeed waking up beneath the frozen ground, and Danny Walsh, whoever he really was, seemed to be the only thing standing between them and the same fate that had claimed the research team. The blue glow under the ice grew brighter. Danny kept his hands pressed against the ship's hull, but Lisa could see strain on his face now. Whatever he was doing to keep them warm was getting harder. The trembling is getting worse, Jake reported, from his pilot seat. Seismic activity is off the charts. Something big is moving down there. Dr. Kim worked frantically at his research station, studying the data they had taken from the frozen base. I think I found something, he called out. The research team's final logs mention a discovery 3 days before they all died. They found ruins buried 2 miles beneath the ice. Ancient ruins from a civilization that died out millions of years ago. Amy looked up from her engineering console. What kind of ruins? According to this, they found a massive complex. Buildings, machines, power sources, all of it designed around some kind of thermal manipulation technology. The research team thought they had discovered the greatest archaeological find in human history. Lisa watched Danny through the window. He stood perfectly still beside their ship, his hands flat against the metal hull. But she noticed something strange. The ice around his feet wasn't just glowing blue anymore, it was melting. Small puddles of water formed around his boots, even though the surface temperature was still deadly cold. "Danny," she called through the speakers. "Dr. Kim found the research team's logs. They mention ancient ruins. Do you know about them?" Danny was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice sounded tired. "I know about them, Commander. I've been down there." Everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing. Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. "You've been in the ruins? That's where I've been living for the past 2 years," Danny said. "Ever since my ship crashed on this planet. Ever since my team died and left me alone down there." Dr. Kim leaned forward. 2 years? But there's no record of any expedition to Kepler 442b before the research mission. "There wouldn't be," Danny replied. "We were a classified mission, military, sent to investigate reports of unusual energy readings from this planet. We found the ruins, just like the research team did. But we found something else too. Something that should have stayed buried." The ship shook again, harder this time. Through the windows they could see cracks spreading across the ice in all directions. The blue glow was getting brighter, and the air above the cracks shimmered with waves of extreme cold. "What did you find down there?" Lisa asked. Danny pressed, his hands harder against the ship. Steam began rising from where his skin touched the metal. "A weapon," he said. "A planetary defense system built by a species that was afraid of everything. They called themselves the Kethmori. They built this system to protect their world from invasion. Any planet that showed signs of advanced technology would be frozen solid. Every living thing killed by unstoppable cold." Amy stared at her instruments. "A weapon that can freeze entire planets?" "The Kethmori are extinct now," Danny continued. "Have been for millions of years. But their weapon is still active, still waiting. The research team's excavation triggered it 3 weeks ago. My team triggered it 2 years ago. And every time someone activates it, it gets stronger." Dr. Kim pulled up star charts on his display. "If this weapon can target other planets, then Earth could be in danger. Our entire solar system could be at risk." "It already is," Danny said quietly. "The weapon doesn't just freeze the planet it's on. It sends out pulses of thermal draining energy to any world that the invaders came from. Right now it's charging up to send a pulse toward Earth. In about 6 hours your home planet will start getting very cold." Lisa felt ice form in her stomach, and it had nothing to do with the temperature. "How do you know all this?" "Because I've been connected to the weapon for 2 years, Danny said. "When my team died, I was trapped in the control room. The Kethmori technology tried to kill me like it killed the others, but something went wrong. Instead of draining my body heat, it started feeding heat into me. I became part of the weapon's thermal network." Amy looked at her engineering displays. The areas where Danny touched the ship were showing impossible readings. Temperatures higher than any human could survive, but somehow contained and controlled. "That's why you can generate heat. The weapon is using you as a thermal processor." "I'm dying," Danny said simply. "Every day the alien technology takes over more of my body. In a few months there won't be anything human left. But until then, I can control some of the weapon's functions. I can protect small areas from the thermal drain. I can keep you alive." The ship lurched as something massive moved beneath the ice. Through the windows they could see structures rising from the frozen ground. Ancient towers made of blue crystal, pulsing with cold light. The ruins were coming to the surface. "The weapon is fully activating," Danny said. His voice was strained now. "I can feel it powering up. The pulse to Earth will launch in 5 hours." Lisa made a decision. "We're going down there. If this weapon can be stopped, we need to try. Commander, that's suicide, Jake protested. If Danny can barely keep our ship warm up here, we'll freeze solid the moment we step outside. Not if Danny comes with us, Lisa said. She activated the external speakers. Danny, can you protect us if we go into the ruins? I can try, Danny replied. But the deeper we go, the harder it gets. The weapon's main control center is at the bottom of the complex. The thermal drain there is so strong that even I might not be able to fight it. Dr. Kim was studying the research team's data. According to these logs, the Keth Mori built safeguards into their weapon, fail-safes that could shut it down if necessary, but they require someone to interface directly with the control system. Interface how? Amy asked. The logs aren't clear, but it sounds like the weapon needs to be convinced that the threat is gone, that the invaders have been eliminated. Someone has to make direct contact with the control system and feed it false information. Danny was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I've been trying to do that for 2 years, but the weapon only partially accepts me. I'm human enough that it sees me as a threat, but alien enough that it can't completely eliminate me. I'm trapped between the two states. Lisa looked at her crew. They had come to Kepler 442b to rescue the research team. Now they were facing a weapon that could destroy Earth and every human colony in space. The mission had changed, but their duty remained the same. We're going down there, she announced. All of us. If there's a chance to stop this weapon, we have to take it. Commander, Danny said through the speakers, you should know something else. The weapon learns from every encounter. It studied my team and it studied the research team. It knows about human technology, human biology, human psychology. It's been preparing defenses specifically designed to kill humans. Amy gathered her tools and equipment. What kind of defenses? Cold that attacks metal and electronics, ice that forms inside lungs and blood vessels, thermal drains that target human body temperature specifically. The deeper we go, the more it will try to kill us in ways designed just for our species. Dr. Kim sealed the research data in a protective case. If we don't make it back, at least Earth will have warning about what's coming. Jake powered down. Non-essential ship systems. How do we get into the ruins? The entrances are probably buried under tons of ice. I know a way, Danny said. I'll have to guide you. But once we go down there, we might not come back up. The weapon doesn't like visitors, and it really doesn't like visitors who know too much about how it works. Lisa checked her equipment one final time. Environmental suit, emergency heating packs, communication gear, and her sidearm. Not much protection against an ancient alien weapon, but it was all they had. Danny, she called, are you ready to go home? Through the hull, they felt Danny's hands shift position. The warmth in the ship remained steady, but they could sense his attention turning toward the ruins rising from the ice. I've been trying to go home for 2 years, Commander, Danny replied. But home isn't a place anymore. Home is making sure no one else has to go through what I've been through. Home is stopping this thing before it kills everyone I care about. The ancient towers pulsed brighter. The weapon was almost ready to fire its deadly pulse toward Earth. Time was running out. Lisa opened the cargo bay door. Cold air rushed in, but Danny's presence kept it from freezing them instantly. Let's go save the human race, she said. The ancient ruins stretched down into the ice like a frozen city. Danny led Lisa and her crew through passages carved from blue crystal that pulsed with cold light. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at, as if they were designed to be uncomfortable for human eyes. Stay close to me, Danny said as they walked deeper into the complex. His body generated enough heat to keep them alive, but Lisa could see the effort was taking its toll. His skin was pale, and steam rose from his clothes. The weapon knows. We're here. It's starting to focus its defenses on us. Amy carried her engineering scanner, studying the alien technology that surrounded them. These power readings are incredible. This single complex generates more energy than our largest fusion reactors back on Earth. The Keth Mori were advanced, Danny explained, but they were also paranoid. They built this weapon because they were afraid of everyone and everything. They thought the universe was full of enemies trying to destroy them. Dr. Kim stopped to examine symbols carved into the wall. Were they right? Were their enemies trying to invade their world? No, Danny said quietly. According to the weapons memory banks, the Kethemori never encountered a single hostile alien species. They built this planetary killer because they were afraid of threats that didn't exist. Their fear destroyed them in the end. They reached a vast chamber filled with crystalline machines that hummed with power. Ice formations covered every surface, but these weren't natural ice crystals. They were geometric and perfect, clearly artificial. The weapon's primary processing center, Danny said. This is where it decides which planets to target and how much thermal energy to drain from each world. Right now it's preparing to send a killing pulse to Earth. Jake checked his watch. How much time do we have? 3 hours, Danny replied. Maybe less. The weapon is charging faster than usual. I think it sees Earth as a major threat because humans keep sending missions to different planets. Lisa looked around the chamber. Dozens of crystal machines lined the walls, all of them pulsing with the same blue light they had seen on the surface. In the center of the room stood a single tower made of black metal that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. That's the control interface, Danny said, pointing to the black tower. Someone has to make direct contact with it and convince the weapon that the threat from Earth has been eliminated. Amy studied her scanner readings. The thermal drain around that tower is massive. Anyone who touches it will freeze instantly. Not instantly, Danny corrected. The weapon likes to study its victims before it kills them. It will take several minutes to drain all the heat from a human body. During that time, a person could potentially feed false information into the system. Dr. Kim understood immediately. It's a suicide mission. Whoever interfaces with that control system will die in the process. Yes, Danny said simply. But if it works, Earth will be safe. The weapon will think all humans are dead and it will go back to sleep. Lisa stepped toward the black tower. I'll do it. As mission commander, it's my responsibility. No, Danny said, blocking her path. It has to be me. The weapon has been connected to my nervous system for 2 years. I'm the only one who can communicate with it effectively. And besides, he smiled sadly, I'm already dying. The alien technology is killing me slowly. This way my death will mean something. Amy's scanner began beeping frantically. The thermal drain is increasing. The entire chamber is getting colder. Around them, the crystal machines pulsed brighter. The weapon was detecting their presence and responding with defensive measures. Frost began forming on their environmental suits despite Danny's protective influence. The weapon is trying to freeze us, Dr. Kim observed. But it's focusing most of its energy on Danny. It sees him as the primary threat. Danny nodded. It knows I can interfere with its systems. It's been trying to kill me completely for 2 years, but the connection between us makes that impossible. We're locked in a stalemate. Until now, Lisa said, understanding his plan. Until now, Danny agreed. When I interface with the control system, the weapon will finally be able to eliminate me completely. But in those last few minutes, I can make it think that I'm the last human alive. When I die, it will believe the Earth threat is gone. Jake pulled out his communication device. I'm recording everything. If we don't make it back, at least Earth will know what happened here. The chamber shook as more power flowed into the weapon systems. Through cracks in the crystal walls, they could see deeper parts of the complex coming online. The entire planetary weapon was awakening. 2 hours left, Danny said. I need to start the interface process now. He walked toward the black tower. With each step, the air around him grew colder. Steam rose from his body as his internal heat fought against the thermal drain. When he was 10 feet from the tower, ice began forming on his clothes. Danny, wait, Lisa called. There has to be another way. He turned back to look at her. His eyes were kind but determined. Commander, in 2 years of being connected to this weapon, I've learned something important about humanity. We don't abandon people. Even when the smart thing to do is run away, humans will stay and fight for strangers. That's what makes us different from the Kethemori. What do you mean? Dr. Kim asked. The Kethemori built this weapon because they were afraid. They never tried to communicate with other species, never tried to make friends or allies. They assumed everyone was an enemy and built defenses against threats that never came. But humans are different. You came to this planet to rescue people you'd never met. You're willing to risk your lives for strangers. Danny took another step toward the tower. More ice formed on his body, but he kept moving. That's humanity's greatest strength. Not your technology, not your weapons, not your intelligence. Your refusal to give up on each other. Amy's scanner was screaming warnings now. Danny, the thermal drain around the tower will kill you the moment you touch it. I know, Danny said, but I've been part of this weapon for 2 years. I know how it thinks. It respects strength, but it doesn't understand sacrifice. When I give my life to save Earth, it will be confused. That confusion will give me the opening I need to feed it false data. He reached the base of the black tower. Ice covered his entire body now, but he was still moving, still alive through sheer force of will. Tell them back on Earth, Danny called to the others. Tell them about the weapon. Tell them to be careful when they explore new planets. And tell them that humans are the best species in the galaxy, not because we're the strongest or the smartest, but because we care about each other. Danny placed his hands on the black tower. The effect was immediate. Blue lightning arced between his body and the alien machine. The thermal drain intensified, pulling heat from his body so fast that his breath came out as ice crystals. But Danny held on, his consciousness merging with the weapon's control system. I can see everything, he said, his voice echoing strangely. The weapon's memory banks, the Kethmori civilization, the thermal pulse aimed at Earth. His body was covered in ice now, but somehow he was still talking. I'm telling it that I'm the last human, that Earth is empty, that the threat is eliminated. The crystal machines around the chamber began powering down. The blue light grew dimmer. The weapon was accepting Danny's false information. It's working, Amy whispered, but Danny's body was failing. The ice covering him was getting thicker. His voice was getting weaker. Commander, get your people out of here. The weapon is going into sleep mode, but the thermal effects will linger for a while. We're not leaving you, Lisa said firmly. You have to, Danny replied. Someone needs to tell Earth about this place. Someone needs to make sure the weapon stays asleep. And someone needs to remember that an ordinary guy named Danny Walsh saved the human race. His voice faded to a whisper. Tell them I went home. The black tower pulsed one final time. Danny's body became completely encased in ice, but his sacrifice had worked. All around the chamber, the alien machines powered down. The weapon was going dormant. Lisa and her crew made their way back to the surface. The planet was already warming as the thermal drain systems shut down. They found the research station team alive but unconscious, preserved in emergency cryosleep that had activated when the heating systems failed. Back on Earth, Lisa filed her report about Kepler 442b and the ancient weapon buried beneath its surface. She recommended that the planet be declared off-limits and monitored permanently, but she also recommended that a memorial be built there. A memorial to Danny Walsh, who had appeared from nowhere when they needed him most. A man who had given up everything to save people he barely knew. A hero who proved that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or firepower. It was the simple refusal to let others suffer alone. The memorial's inscription read, "He froze to death so that we might live. Unknown soldier, unforgotten sacrifice." But Lisa knew better. Danny Walsh hadn't been unknown. He had been exactly what humanity needed him to be when they needed him most. He had been human.